Hey everyone. So here's a little mini presentation on the engineering design process I took in Module 2. So I first started identifying the problem, which is what is the best landscape to encourage infiltration and minimize runoff? The next thing I did was go ahead and research. So I took a look at the runoff simulator by Stroud Water Research Center, which I thought was excellent. And I took a look at different types of land cover, from the most impervious down to quite permeable land cover, and looked at the amount of runoff and infiltration to kind of just get me thinking about this. Moving along, I was trying to kind of figure out what would be the best way to approach this problem and what could I devise to do it. And I ended up going with the erosion bottles. I guess most importantly, because I was really interested in trying it out, especially with my students. I do teach about erosion and watershed management in my classroom. So I thought this might be an excellent thing to pull into my own classroom. So luckily, I had the foresight to take a look at Module 2 last Friday and realized that I was going to have to grow some grass. So when I started engineering my mini landscapes, I was debating between which grass would grow in the quickest. Sorry, which grass would grow the quickest in a week. So I went with cat grass and regular grass. And after a week, you'll notice my cat grass is still non existent and my regular grass did decently well. So this is what I used in the actual investigation. So then I went ahead, you'll see in the first picture, and set up my other three landscapes. So I have all soil, the one with soil, leaves, mulch, and then the one with my week old grass. So I went ahead and added, as you'll see, 500 milliliters of water to each of the bottles, and then took a look at the amount of runoff and also tried to view the clarity of the water. I then went ahead and evaluated my results. I took a look at the amount of runoff. As you'll see with the soil, I got about 205 milliliters. The water was pretty murky. There was large debris. A lot of erosion occurred. And then next, the soil, leaves, and compost had about 175 milliliters. These were estimates. The water was, I would say, more just a little cloudy. There were smaller debris, but still erosion. And lastly, my soil with 1 week old grass had about 160 milliliters of runoff, smaller particles, and fairly clear. I wasn't totally stoked about the difference between the soil with leaves and the week old grass. So I went back and decided to kind of improve upon this. So I went out to my backyard and tried to choose a place that was not too obvious to cut up some grass. And I put that in a container and then went ahead and added water and tried to see how that would affect the amount of erosion occurring and the amount of runoff. I, however, didn't measure 500 milliliters because the soil, as you know, outside, it hasn't rained in a while, was quite dry. So I had to add a lot more water. So there was kind of a variable there that I didn't take into account originally. And you'll notice my results with fully grown grass compared to my week old grass was much more clear. I then took it a step further and thought about how I could explore impervious surfaces with my students, which we do discuss. We talk a lot about all of the buildings that we have, our parking lots, our houses, and how there's a lot of runoff due to that. So I used some model magic here, and the water, as you can imagine, just poured straight out. And then I also thought about pollution. Often we talk about how motor oil gets into our waterways just due to the amount of runoff. So I also showed that here. So just kind of thinking beyond what I could do in the future with my students. I thought this activity would align great with the STEEL standards on human impacts for grade 6 to 8 science, which is exactly what I teach. I'm actually responsible for teaching this material. So I thought it was really nice for students to be able to see how us altering landscapes in the geosphere affects our hydrosphere. So I thought that would be an awesome connection to show them. Last, I went ahead and took a look at the STEM practices. I highlighted the ones that I thought I went, into detail on with this activity. The one thing I want to highlight is obtain, evaluate, and communicate information. I know as a teacher I need to get better at this, and I think I recognized it in doing this project. Me having to communicate my findings to you was kind of an aha moment. Like, my students need to be able to do this. Thanks for listening. Take care, everyone.